Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, a recap of the Tour of France 2026. We've started in Barcelona, we finished in Paris yesterday, and now we have the whole recap. We'll go through all the stage winners. Had to be good to win a stage this year. The GC was obviously very tight right until the end for Tadej Pogacar. Close run thing, of course. The points classification, mountain classification, white jersey, and what we'd like to see, changed with maybe the minor calendar, or not the minor calendar, the minor jerseys. Do they change the point system? Did we enjoy it? Did they achieve what they wanted to, the organisers, with those changes? And finally, did we enjoy this year's Tour de France? We, of course, have the women's Tour de France Femme Vegas with preview coming probably Wednesday, early afternoon, mid-afternoon. We will shoot for. That starts on Saturday, just to give you a little bit of breathing room over the next couple of days to absorb the men's tour and this pod. How are you feeling, Benji, on the afternoon after?
Pretty good. I won't lie. Obviously, the Tour de France is over, so it means that there's like 330 days to go until the next Tour de France, which is a pretty long journey, but there's plenty of other good races in the season that I am looking forward to, including the Vuelta coming up in no time on the men's calendar, and like you say, the women's calendar with Tour de France, FOM, and so forth. So we'll be fine, and we'll give our takes on the Tour de France pretty soon, but it feels like a year ago that we were together in Barcelona.
Feels like a long time ago, even that you were here in Andorra, for week one. And that's because Grand Tours are indeed too long. You lose a month of your life. Stage one was in Barcelona. The TTT, won by Team Visma Bike in the upset. I think they were fifth favourites. Vingegaard goes into the yellow jersey. The stage the next day was again in Barcelona on the Montjuic circuit. And Pogacar and Del Toro went over the line 1-2. Not the last time we would see that. Vingegaard still hangs on to the jersey just narrowly. And then the next day, UAE control for the uphill sprint. Pogacar wins in Les Anglais. We head back into France, and he takes the yellow jersey. The next day, he gives it away. Torsten Tran gets into a breakaway. Trek were not going to control. They went in the break with Pedersen for the 50 points with Simmons and Vacek, and they dominated this stage. Pedersen wins. The first actual sprint was won by Coy, repaying Decathlon for the faith in him, both signing him and bringing him to the Tour after his sickness early in spring. And then the next day to the Tourmalet, Torsten Tran crashes on the descent of the Tourmalet, loses yellow, but more importantly, Pogacar takes best part of 3 minutes on Jonas Vingegaard and more or less sealed the Tour de France after stage 6, which probably was not their intention when they designed that parcours. And we see huge gaps all over the place, except between the podium contenders, who all finished of much of a muchness. 7 and 8 were sprints. Tim Merlier does the business, thank you very much. And stage 9, Mathieu Van der Poel won the breakaway uphill sprint against Johannesson when the pressure of the peloton was just coming behind because UAE controlled all day.
Gotta say, if I think back to that stage 9 breakaway stage, for example, and a lot of the breakaway stages coming afterwards, I feel like we had some really good breakaway battles in this race compared to in the Giro, where we had one where it was obvious for 60 kilometers straight that Narvaez was going to win. I don't find very much happiness in knowing who's going to win with 60 kilometers to go. So I want that fight, and that fight was the case for many of these breakaway stages. So that's lovely. But question, you mentioned Visma being the 5th favorite in the betting odds for the team time trial. How are those odds made? Because I think that is absolutely ridiculous. They were obviously not 5th favorite if you use your brain before that team time trial.
Yeah, but the Affini just crashed, remember? And
they were 2nd favorite in my book every step of the way.
Okay. That's just, it's the representation of what the general public or general thinking is. Maybe they were 1st favorites in some people's minds. And yeah, 2nd favorite I think probably is correct. They ended up winning, so it's hard to disagree with you. That's just a reflection of what people thought at the time.
Now, if we go further, you said it indeed that first mountain stage was the Tourmalet. And on the Tourmalet, the gap between Tadej Pogacar and Jonas was actually not that gigantic. We highlighted it in that first week already, where it was literally like 20 to 30 seconds. I think 30 seconds maybe by the top of that Tourmalet. It's the descent and the final climb, which was lower gradients, and thus the fact that Tadej Pogacar's absolute watts are better than that of Jonas. It benefited him so much to have that after the Tourmalet. Now, if we extrapolate this climb, for example, and we think about that Gavarni stage, we think about what happened later with Plateau de Solaison, etc., and the races where Jonas did not play a role, I actually don't think Jonas would have lost minutes on these mountain stages. I think he was closer this year. It's impossible to say because we didn't see it in the last week because he wasn't here, but he looked closer in terms of climbing level to Pogacar than he definitely did last year in Otakam. The last week last year is a bit of a wish-wash for me because Tadej Pogacar was not at his best in that last week last year.
Yeah, and he was missing Almeida. So I think we'll get to the last week in a second, but week one, we had some sprints, but I think the organizers will be regretting the design of stage 6, or at least the outcome of stage 6. But we definitely saw that Del Toro and Pogacar was the strongest 1-2 combo in the race. Week 2, we begin the Lioran stage. Pogacar again drops Vingegaard on Pertus, and in the last 3 minutes of it, and then extends the gap afterwards, and 10 seconds becomes 30 to 45 seconds. Stage 11, the lowest ranked rider, who's a very good rider who's won Omloop, the lowest ranked rider I think that wins a stage is the Varenshold sprint, because it was he launches behind Bol, who Coy let go. That's not, I make that point to say that Varenshold's a very, very good rider, and that's the quality of the riders that won stages in this year's tour was incredible. Merlier won the sprint the next day, 3 sprints, successful tour for him in Quick Step. Stage 3 to Belfort, we had our first break stage without a Varnapol in it, and for like the in-between climbers, Mauro Schmidt wins after Jayco pulled off a masterclass. Le Markstein, Pogacar again, drops Vingegaard in the last 4 minutes of the climb, and then extends it on the plateau. So that we saw the same thing, 3 stages in a row, basically. And then stage 15, Visma start to control, and Vingegaard crashes out just before the Solaison, the climb he'd been waiting for. Remco wins the stage. Was it a gift? Was it not a gift? We don't know from Tadej Pogacar. And Pogacar, of course, in terms of GC then, yeah, his main opponent that was at least going to try to attack him was now out of the race.
And like, if you look at that race so far, then we're waiting for the mountains. We're waiting for those mountains in the last week to begin. To not see Jonas in that last week is a dumper. I don't know if that's an English word. I just might have used a Dutch word. A disappointing thing. Lipovic crashing out in that time trial as well is also not exactly what we're looking for in the final week. So we're losing 2 GC riders in the span of a couple days between stage 13 and 17. I know you're not at stage 16 yet, but it's not exactly the big fight in that third week that, like, it's hard to say, because if we look at that final week, then we've got that time trial that Remco wins on stage 16, and from that point onwards, Remco is so safely in second place, like 2 minutes 30 is the gap on third place, basically, to the point that I'm not sure if Lipovic being an extra element to that would have improved the fight for third place that much.
No, like, I think Lipovic is aggressive. Like, he gives it a go. He was the first guy that attacked on Pertus. No, Le Markstein.
Yes.
Le Markstein he attacked. Lipovic was the first. So he'll give it a crack. But indeed, was he going to drop Del Toro? I'm not so sure. But definitely, I think he would have top 5'd. He would have defended top 5, not Martinez. But yeah, that's what happened on stage 16. Remco wins the TT. Pretty impressive performance. Pogacar on 30 seconds. Pogacar still clearly the second, putting another 30 seconds into the next best. Philipsen won the breakaway stage, transition stage, with the help of Van der Poel on stage 17. That was a cracking stage, actually. Carapaz won to Orsia Millet, his first stage win of the week. Pogacar won on Alpe d'Huez after Lenny, Carapaz, and Kuss played around. They had it in their hand, and then Pog caught them. But Carapaz and Lenny move up in GC. Carapaz won to the other way to Alpe d'Huez, the Queen stage, after Kuss crashed. And then Van der Poel won yesterday in Paris. So our stage winners were Visma TTT, Del Toro, Pogacar, Pedersen, Coy, Merlier, Van der Poel, Varenshold, Schmidt, Remco, Philipsen, Carapaz. So
some pretty good cyclists.
Yeah, it's to win a stage in the Tour, you have to be the best at what you do in the world, basically.
It's come to the point that, like, sure, Sepp Kuss was fighting for the stage win on Alpe d'Huez and on, technically also Alpe d'Huez, I won't call it that, on Col de Saren. the day afterwards. On Col de Sardaigne, he was actually riding to the victory before those 2 crashes. The fact that a rider at that level already has complications to find his way to a stage victory, it shows that the level is super high. Because in the Giro, Sepkus won a stage. He won that stage pretty comfortably, actually. So it's an example of riders of that level that can go in the breakaway. If there's one guy better, that guy is most likely not just going to go in the break once, but multiple times for KOM in Carapaz. And in doing so, Carapaz was the best breakaway. Like, he was in mountain breakaways almost every time for KOM. And therefore, if you're in the breakaway, the rider you're up against on the final climb will almost always be Richard Carapaz, especially after VPP kind of started climbing a bit backwards in the last couple of mountain days, which meant that Carapaz had less pressure from him and could save more energy for the actual stage win at the end of the day. So it's also fascinating because
Carapaz said, I was sitting there on Seren and all 3 of us were Grand Tour winners.
Yeah, for example. And I think the added detail is the reason those breakaway victories happen in week 3, I think is at least partially, largely, I think, because of the fact that UAE Team Emirates internally had sickness, McNulty getting hit by the car, reduction in strength as a team, because I feel like they still tried to control where possible in the 3rd week, just didn't have the strength to do it, and that's why the stage 1 was never in grabs on stage 18 and stage 20, for example. Because if Pogacar and UAE have full strength, the odds of those 2 stages going to Pogacar are realistic too.
Yeah, especially all Del Toro and Alcio Millet. Why can't he win the sprint? So, Alcio Millet, they really let it go, but indeed, Alpe d'Huez, they clearly wanted to win Alpe d'Huez, but they wouldn't have won if they cooperated in front. They would not have won if the guys relayed in front. So, I heard someone on Instagram, I forgot his name to credit him, but he messaged me his conspiracy theory. The 2 guys not to get sick, to get diarrhea maybe, Grosschartner and Pogacar, who collaborated on Pogacar's new coffee line.
You're saying that the coffee line is the reason that they're getting sick.
The other guy, so the coffee line, maybe Pogacar and Grosschartner have iron stomachs, but then the coffee's now on the bus. The other guys aren't used to it. They're not accustomed to it. Grosschartner and Pogacar have been taste testing this coffee line. They're adapted to it. The other guys aren't.
You're saying the opposite. They're acclimated to the coffee by drinking it so much. Fair theory. I enjoy it. I think the final conclusion I want to add to that team strength is we can talk about UAE Team Emirates being dominant the last 2 years and being able to control the race and so forth. And first of all, you know my take. I want less riders per team. We saw in the last week what having less riders for UAE Team Emirates would mean in terms of the ability to control the stage. You'd need more than 1 less, though, if you really want to make it happen. But on the other hand, there's also the added realism that, yes, Almeida crashed out before the mountain started last year. Half of the team here was out before the final week of UAE, or at least half decapitated, which results in the outcome that we've still not seen UAE Team Emirates at full strength in week 3 of a Tour de France in the last 2 years.
But is that because of how they ride the early stages? Like, to me, it's a strategy. They come out and they just blow everyone out of the water, and then Poggy's on 6 minutes. Like we would normally be saying on the stages like Les Anglais, it's not necessary to do what they did on stage 3. It's not necessary. But they have Wellens ride absolutely full. And the same on Tourmalet. And it's effective. You win the stage, and then on Tourmalet, they killed the race. But Wellens, it's not like Wellens was saving his energy for week 3.
For sure. I think stage 3 is skippable for them completely. It's even maybe something they should consider for the sakes of what I'm about to say next. Then Tourmalet, for example, that's the one where you want to control that stage because you know you can invest and get a largest ROI, not just a stage win, but also a 1 minute plus conservative gap. If you gap Vingegaard at the top of the Tourmalet, you know that beforehand that the gap will be that big if the gap is there. So that's a stage where it's worth investing every inch of energy you have. Stage 3, that's not really the case for me. I think I'm happy for them that they won the stage. Could have gone either way. Their Tour de France wouldn't have looked different if Pogacar had or had not won that stage in my personal eyes. I'm more thinking about, I think part of the reason that, for example, a Jonas at the Giro and a Pogacar at the Tour de France want to lock up the race early is because I do believe that, just like Jonas riding the Tour de France after the Giro, there's been this whole conversation the last couple of weeks about, is Tadej Pogacar riding the Vuelta a España? I've been completely convinced since November, December that he would ride the Vuelta. I've never even doubted it since. So I would have been more shocked if he didn't. And we heard the Monaco Prince basically half declare it already, even though that's maybe not the most official communication, even though that sounds pretty official. Like, that is the factor as well, where a team wants to lock up the race early to then be able to sit in a more defensive position for the last 2 weeks, hypothetically, with an already safe GC, so that they don't have to go all out for 3 weeks to save Pogacar, so to say, for the Vuelta. But I also don't feel like Pogacar saved himself in the last week. It's not like he rode defensively in the same manner as he was forced to do last year.
No, I mean, they pulled behind the break on Alpe d'Huez, and he did one of his second best ever climbing performance on Alpe d'Huez, broke the record. And then on the last stage, like, did he have to pull that hard? You know, if we're talking really saving energy, even if he's going to help Del Toro, does he have to pull the whole Lautre descent full? So to me, it wasn't, I didn't really see someone in really conserving energy mode, not actively.
I expected it more, actually, than I saw it. I didn't see it either. So then we haven't really discussed it. Maybe we'll discuss it in a second. But to round up the stages here, have you gone through every single one?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I think I want to ask you a question. What was your most forgettable stage of the Tour de France, Patrick?
The vulnerable stage 9. I forgot.
Really?
Yeah.
For me, it's Schmidt.
No, I remember that because it was actually a break. It was a departure from... Yeah, I remember that one a lot because it was like Jayco against UAE. I forgot Vanderpool stage 9 because I remember like should Schelmos have pulled for Pedersen, that discourse then. And UAE kept it really tight.
For me, it's the reasoning.
That's another one, like stage 3. You know, why if it was... Maybe the two are not necessarily linked. You can't draw a clear thread between the two, but UAE do not rest Wellens on stage 9. Why didn't they just let the break win?
That's also my take.
Yeah. I'm just speaking like rhetorically. Like when you now think back to earlier parts of the tour, maybe not that they need help getting any better, but yeah, for some reason that's the stage I couldn't tell you exactly what happened in each 3 of the earlier sprints also. And
to be honest, UAE themselves couldn't explain in one voice what happened in stage 9. I swear, 4 different people from the team said a different reason to why they paced. I think one of the riders said they were riding for a Pogacar victory, which wouldn't have happened on that finish. On the other end, someone said Del Toro victory, which also wouldn't have happened against Pedersen and Zofov on that finish. Then someone said team classification, Wellens before the stage started, which that is a more reasonable explanation, but I'm not sure that's the case. Then Giannetti said that they weren't riding for any stage wins either. So 4 different reasons were given. And I still don't know why they rode that hard that day. What can be said is that it was a complete waste of energy in hindsight.
Yeah. That's like when Del Toro said yesterday, we tricked everybody. We were actually very sick this week. I was like, no one was tricked. McNulty abandoned and Wellens was 2 minutes out of OTL. Everyone knew you guys were sick. Pogacar was still good.
Now, the thing about the Schmidt thing for me is that fantastic rider this year. You said to me before we started this podcast today, 2,700-ish UCI points, not being a GC rider, that's gigantic. That's, I don't know, the Lee levels on like a good season. And if we zoom out from that, I think the reason that I forget the Mauro Schmidt victory is not because of the specific stage. I think it's big name tags. Is that a thing? As in, or lesser known name tags? Because a lot of people know Mauro Schmidt that listen to this podcast. We like seeing him win the stage, for example. And if someone would ask me tomorrow, who are all the stage winners of the Tour de France, I would be able to name easily Remco Evenepoel, Tadej Pogacar, Mathieu van der Poel, Richard Carapaz. The one name that I think would slip through the cracks if I miss any is Mauro Schmidt.
Yeah, I can understand that. But in terms of just level,
yeah,
like in terms of level, it's very, very high. Like to win a stage this year, it's just so hard to do. You can't, like you go on a break and it's either Schmidt, who's been in hit hard one-day races this year, like he's second in flesh. So you're against a guy who's 70 kilos, can sprint, but he can also punch well enough that he's second in flesh. And if the stage is a bit easier, you're against Van der Poel or Pedersen.
Yeah.
Like, that's in the break. It's so hard to win a stage.
Whereas the Spanish Messiah, Raul Garcia Pierna Patrick.
He was in every break. He had the most kilometers in the front of the race this year.
I'm so happy for him. With a podium, I think, and maybe another top 10 somewhere. I think Castrillo got 3 top 10s, if I recall, from Movistar. But overall, if you look at that performance, it's nice that they were visible and relevant in breakaways, but yeah, the team doesn't get much out of the race, especially with Uiterbrooks falling sick in the first week and abandoning. Same with Lotto with Arnaud Delis. So that to the side, our favorite stage of this Tour de France, Patrick.
Favorite stage? 17.
Okay, so the Jasper Philippen stage.
Yeah, because it's like green jersey's been turned back on its head, but not through a sprint, through a breakaway stage. I found it very, very exciting.
I think I tend to agree. I think a lot of people might say stage 21. I enjoyed the journey that we went through on stage 17 more. Because
stage 21 is the Avengers Marvel comic universe. It's like a cinematic universe. It's like...
Are you calling it like Marvel slop?
Yeah, it's entertainment for the masses, not for the purists. The purists are watching a breakaway Wednesday stage. It's like, oh yeah, this break formation's taking quite a while.
I think that's a perfect comparison because the fight for that green jersey with Philipsen out playing Lil Trek at the start of that stage in break formation, that break formation was a pleasure, a cinematic experience. That's Christopher Nolan in his prime.
Oh no, it had a storyline, so it's better than Nolan. Maybe, it's Coen Brothers or something. So someone that can actually create a story, not just technically be good. But
okay,
no free ads or unqualified movie reviews for more hot takes like that. I've lost my train of thought. GC, let's get to GC because I was seeing just to round off, guys like Hugo Hull, they don't win stages anymore. It's not possible. Like,
oh yeah, but Hugo Hull's not really at the level that he was before either. Or do you mean that level of rider?
No, Hugo Hull at the level of Hugo Hull when he won the stage.
Who did he beat again?
Jorgensen on Movistar. And Mike Woods was blocking behind.
Yeah. That was a pretty strong performance by Hull, though. That was probably his career best ride that I've ever seen.
He was not a top 10 ranked rider.
For sure not.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it's not a good performance. I'm just saying the level is even higher now. GC Pogacar wins by 6.5 minutes ahead of Remco. Remco is best ever for his 5th Tour de France victory. He's now 2 off Armstrong. If Armstrongs count, up to you. The Remco's 2nd is his best result in the Tour de France, and since he won the Vuelta in 2022. Del Toro podiums, his 2nd Grand Tour podium, and takes the white jersey, 9 minutes 42, over 2 minutes ahead of Sexas. Sexas, we got to do the join read. Nice little segue. He does finish 4th. Benji vindicated that he never did get into 3rd. I thought in the TT he might sneak into 3rd, but Del Toro did a great TT. Benji was correct.
Paper hands, let's go!
Yeah, paper hands. Benji just bought at 40%, and 40% was the right way to go. But if the tour is finished, you're like me, you got to reset. July is not my best month, I'll be honest, exercise-wise. Got a lot going on. Got to reset. The weather's good. The sun is shining. The birds are singing. We're still in July. There's no better time than to get a joint cycling plan. Get a discount through us, through the link down below, and you can build a personalized training plan around your fitness. You can make it an event in 3 months. You can make it a just get started. You can make it a recovery plan, put your availability in it. It'll see what your fitness is. It'll adjust, and then you can get going. That's what I'll be doing this week onwards. I got the trainer behind me. I'll be running, which you can also do with a joint cycling plan. It gives you a couple of runs per week, which I really, really like. And yeah, there's no better time than now to enjoy summer with a bit of structured training and flexibility that joint cycling offers. So thanks to them also for supporting the podcast, not just during the Tour de France, but for the last few years as well. They're a fantastic partner, and it's so good to see so many of you enjoying their product, which we really, really support as well. But Sexas Benji, my hot take is that he had the most anonymous tour possible, considering the hype and everything pre-race. In both, I mean that in a good and a bad way.
Ooh, I like that take. I see where you come from. I think I want to bring me and you back to our expectations before the race, before we judge what Paul Sixas did. Because my thought process before the race was, I want to see the flashes of what Paul Sixas could be capable of, which is being competitive for the podium and on a couple stages be competitive with a Pogacar, Jonas, etc. That kind of flash, but I don't need the consistency, is what I saw. And it's funny because on one end, I feel like that's exactly what I got. But on the other end, I also feel like I got the opposite, because I got the consistency, but I didn't necessarily see like a flash of him being any closer to a Tadej Pogacar than to the rest, which is completely fine. The guy's literally 19. He's the youngest rider to start the Tour de France since 1937, I think, which that's already a feat in itself. To then finish fourth in a Grand Tour, I don't care if it's anonymous or whether he's attacking left and right. I think the reality is that based on the cracking on stage 20 and his defensiveness in the last week, I think it's mostly related to the fact that he was struggling in the final week.
I mean, I think it was anonymous in a good way. No major blow-ups, really. Like, we're talking like blow-up where you lose your GC top 10. No, really, and even stage 20, he tried to attack. They didn't even defend. I mean, he wouldn't have lost that much time if they didn't do the surging on Seren and Prudhomme stayed around him. So they tried to attack. Like
Prudhomme tried to attack.
Exactly. No major like mechanicals at bad moments that then turned into a disaster and a like Del Toro on stage 2, for example. Like, it just was kind of a problem-free, quiet TDF for someone who is the next great French hope. I thought it was reasonably like under wraps and controlled, and like I quibble a little bit with some of the tactical decisions. I think they could have picked their moments to be aggressive here and there, but fourth, you can't knock it. They'll be very happy. Remember, he crashed as well. He was like not training for a while. He didn't have the perfect preparation. I think that affected him as well. I think his best performance was Tourmalet.
Yeah, probably.
Tourmalet
which
was very good.
A rider that's never ridden more than 9 days of racing in a row, then it's not shocking that his last week is slightly worse than his first week. Tourmalet was definitely a strong performance by Paul Sixas. Even the last week I rate pretty highly. So I think this was the next step necessary for, let's be honest about it, everybody and their dog sees Paul Sixas as one of the next Tour de France winners. That's not overrating, right? That's how people view his growth potential.
He's 19th, he was 4th. I mean, he was also as strong as Del Toro on Alpe d'Huez. He was as strong as... So he's not like getting dropped also by other guys all the time. I mean, Remco...
Showed mental strength.
Exactly. I mean, what... I think Lamarckstein was very, very good too. He caught back to Vingegaard. I think that's maybe the highlight. In the end of week 2, he's catching Vingegaard at the end of Lamarckstein.
Is that related to the... I do feel like the fun part when it comes to these newer riders, newer quote unquote, because we've been speaking about them for like 4 years at this point, but these quote unquote newer riders, is that we slowly but surely start to see more of their arsenal. And I feel like we had the thought process going into this race that we had not seen him on the long climbs yet, but we suggested that he might be better on the, let's say, 20-minute climbs than the 45-minute climbs. I do think we saw more proof of that, but I don't think the Tour de France necessarily says that that's his limit. I think that's partially because it's the third week of the Grand Tour that we saw some of those limits on, let's say, Sudden, for example. Where I think if you look in 2 years from now, I don't think those limits will be there.
Exactly. The same thing happened. Pogacar was really always good at 10 to 20 minutes. Then he extended that out as he got older. Del Toro, maybe the same thing. So, yeah, I think he had a really, really good Tour de France. And, yeah, Riccatello's TTT we'll never understand. But other than that, it was a Prudhomme also. Yeah, this is a good opportunity to give credits to Prudhomme, Benoit. They had a really, really good level.
I did miss Mühlberger still. I think Aurélien Parepinter shouldn't have been at this race. That was my take before the race, still afterwards. Mühlberger would have been a very valuable rider. But I want to lastly mention that I think the presence of Paul Sixas takes away that from the love that Lenny Martinez would be getting. Because Martinez has been getting a lot of criticism on social media. I think tactically he wrote out was far from the best game optimized strategy. So he definitely could have been competitive for the victory there if he rode it better, including Carapaz didn't attack 20 times. But Martinez was definitely the worst on that climb in terms of strategy and passiveness. That said, fifth at this Grand Tour is his breakthrough for Grand Tour GC. That's a fantastic outcome for Lenny Martinez. And I think if Paul Sixas wasn't here, then France wouldn't be as angry at him.
Yeah, Martinez really draws the ire of the French fans. I saw it. I just looked at, across Twitter and everything. He was getting skewered in not like that was really stupid, what were you doing way, but also like really like not liking the way he rides. So
I think they call him the Rat.
Really?
Is it because he left?
I think it also has to do with leaving Groupama to go to Bahrain. By the way, that Groupama Devo class is aging. Lenny Martinez, Pithy, and Gregoire. If they had those three, it's crazy. So,
did they extend the correct one in hindsight? Because back then we were always like, Gregoire is a must resign, etc.
Gregoire is a winner.
Yeah, but not at the Tour de France. Groupama at the Tour de France was a joke.
Yeah, they didn't have a great tour.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I think Lenny does get to be out of the spotlight a little bit, but maybe because I'm only in the Anglophone cycling media world, I didn't feel that much attention on Sykes this tour. That's why I always thought he should do it. I thought it was about Remco, Pog, Del Toro, and then Jonas crashing out, and then he was just following.
I feel like a lot of stuff we've spoken about, for example, before this race began, you saw Paul Sixas as he can podium this Tour de France. Just before this tour, I saw him as he can top 5 this Tour de France. Maybe be competitive for the podium. I do want to mention, you said he could potentially podium this tour back in December, so credits to you. But that to the side, Pogacar winning, Del Toro getting third in this race, Tim Lear being the best sprinter. Before this race started, we both had the feeling that we would see a Remco Evenepoel on the level of 2024, for example.
Yeah.
It was a very predictable Tour de France.
It was, yeah. Like what?
And
they're all confirmed names in the top 10, right?
I'd rather get all my predictions wrong, if that makes sense, and have some upsets here or there. That makes sense?
I think Lenny 5th and Skelly 6th. Now, that's also a function of Lipovitz and Vingegaard crashing out, but always two guys are probably going to crash out that should be in the top 10. So maybe, Lenny 7th and Schelmoser 8th wouldn't be that big a turn up for the books, but on 13 minutes and 15 minutes, Schelmoser to Pogacar, that does surprise me. That Schelmoser, without going in the break, finishes 15 minutes to Pog. I did not expect that.
Me neither. The Storm Troll was fantastic.
Yeah, that is a third in the TT. I didn't expect it. Yeah.
I think Little Trek will be happy about that. And it's kind of funny because we've had this discussion back and forth over the years where Schelmoser was always kind of the person where we were like, okay, can top 5 this Grand Tour, can top 5 this Grand Tour, maybe not top 5 the Tour de France. Right now, I could say that in a perfect year, he can top 5 the Tour de France. Maybe if Little Trek doesn't focus on Pedersen, he does top 5 this Tour de France. for sure. Because Martinez wouldn't have been paced by Trek away from Skelmose in that Alpe d'Huez stage. So little Trek gifted the top 5 to Martinez in return for the green jersey, which I don't necessarily mind that trade, but it does show that Skelmose could have top 5 this Tour de France if the team had him as a priority instead, which that's just a choice of the team, which is fine. Now, Ayuso, the last week was a bit disappointing. I think that's fair to say, but I do give him the benefit of the doubt because of his preparation being far from perfect. Because that crash at Paris-Nice basically deregulated his entire run into the Tour de France.
Yeah, the problem is the on the long climbs, he's just getting killed.
Yeah.
Like forget Pogacar and Remco, he got put on a minute by Sykes and Lipovitz on Solaison, a minute. And then he's not TTing. I mean, let's say he does his normal TT, he's not TTing much better than them. So, yeah, it's going to be tough for him on the long, steep climbs, I think, Ayuso, sickness or not. But yeah, Trek should be happy. Let's get into some more GC themes. I think Pogacar's level, these are his words. They're no better than 2024, but like I said before the Tour de France, it doesn't need to be because that level was good enough to win the last 2 Tours de France by over 5 minutes. So, yeah, more or less the same level, and that's like that's enough. He doesn't need to improve. Next step for Del Toro, for me, is to win the Giro next year.
I think I agree with that completely. Like, he's been babysitted into 3rd place at the Tour de France. He probably doesn't make the podium if it's not for Pogacar helping him in this race, because then, for example, on the Puy-Marie stage, it would have been blown to pieces earlier. Del Toro would have been losing way more time than he did that day. So there's a few moments here where Del Toro would have lost more time, is what I'm trying to say. Sixas wouldn't have had to cross a line in the final mountain stage, for example. But that doesn't take away from the fact that he podiumed the Tour de France. Like, I had the expectations before the race started that Del Toro could come third. That's not a shocking outcome for me necessarily. I am happy to see the consistency across 3 weeks. I don't know what the reason was for the bad day though on the Puy-Marie stage, because yes, he spoke about sickness in the last couple of days in terms of in the team itself. He didn't look that sick himself in the last couple of days. Like stage 20, he was riding pretty good, Del Toro. So I don't know what days he had maybe a sickness in the middle of the Grand Tour, no clue. Either way, I think it's return to the Giro d'Italia. Try to maybe do Giro Vuelta double. I think that's fine. Maybe they go for Giro Tour double. That's also a possibility where he goes for himself at the Giro, then helps Pogacar at the Tour de France again. That's not an impossible strategy either. I don't mind too much as long as Del Toro can go for his own Grand Tour next year. I want to see that. I want to see that mostly because last year, let's be honest about it, Del Toro could have easily won that Tour de France if the team of UAE Team Emirates had their brains on their head in the last week.
I think UAE's goal will be to win a Grand Tour with a rider not named Pogacar. That's going to be their goal in 27, unless Almeida wins the Vuelta. I don't think Pog... I mean, he can win the Vuelta if Pog crashes out, but I think if Pog's there, he's not gifting a Grand Tour. So I think Del Toro winning the Giro, I would say that's going to be his target next year.
Now, in addition to that, I think I want to talk about Remco Evenepoel as well, because he finished 2nd place on, let's say, 6 minutes and a half. I think he said in an interview after the race as well that would most likely have been 9 minutes if Tadej Pogacar didn't wait for with Del Toro on Plateau de Salaison and in stage 20. So he's actively aware of the fact that he was able to stay with them on Plateau Solaison, for example, because of the fact that Pogacar's waiting. And that's also why he answered to the question, what would it take for you to win the Tour de France, Tadej Pogacar not being present? I think a lot of people were then, but Jonas Vingegaard. I think Remco Evenepoel can be competitive with this level in a Grand Tour where there's more time trial kilometers, because Jonas's time trials in the last 1.5 years, I don't remember every time trial of his life, have not been at a level where Remco Evenepoel can't put more than a minute and a half into him.
Yeah, like the Giro one this year, right?
Was awful.
Yeah, that was 13th. He lost. I know it was a flat one, but to Aronsman he lost let's say Remco would do the same time as Ganna. Is that realistic on the flat? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, if not maybe better on his best day.
Yeah, so that's 3 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, he lost 3 minutes to Ganna.
Holy shit. I hadn't even thought that far. But like, I do believe that Jonas Vingegaard is a far better climber still than this
but
Remco
3 minutes
Evenepoel
is a lot of time.
But 3 minutes is a lot of time. Like, what I'm trying to convey is Tadej Pogacar is the best climber in the world. Second best climber right now in the world is Jonas Vingegaard. What the gap would have been in the last week of the Tour de France to Remco Evenepoel, I don't think it's more than. It's definitely not more than 2 minutes and a half.
Yeah, so like, let's say on Solaison he does 45 seconds.
So that would have been a scenario where Tadej Pogacar or Jonas attacked and were ahead, of course. Eh?
Yeah. And then Alpe d'Huez, I think he does rinse Remco and Alpe d'Huez, but that's now another, let's say a minute 20. But like rinsing, it's only like a minute to a minute 30. Max.
I think so too, but even that,
wait, actually, what
a minute 20, a minute 30 is a lot of time on this level of Remco Evenepoel.
Nah, Alpe d'Huez was dribble.
Yeah, but Alpe d'Huez was dribble partially for a reason. Eh? That second group Remco didn't need to pace his all-out tempo in that second group either. Eh?
Yeah, but when he attacked them, he wasn't going much away from them.
That is fair.
He beat them by 10 seconds after sitting on.
What's the gap to Poggi that day?
2:30.
2 minutes?
2:30.
2:30.
That's a big.
I agree. Then Jonas would have been a minute 20-ish ahead of Remco. Yeah. I think finding 3 minutes in that last week.
It's close enough that you got to also go on. So you got to drop him at least twice, maybe probably 3 times properly, and that's because of all the plateaus. Like Vingegaard actually did drop Remco on Tourmalet, on Le Marchesine, on actually he did not drop him on Le Liron Pertus. Remco was on his wheel. But there was the plateaus, and Remco, the whole tour, I think Remco rode perfect tour. He knew on the plateaus he could come back. On the descents he could come back because he's the aero bullet, so he never went over his limit. He lost 10 seconds more than he had to, or he deliberately lost 10 seconds more on the climbs to power back on his terrain. It was super effective, particularly on stage 14.
I am of the opinion that Plateau de Solaison is not representative of what we can expect from a Remco on every mountain stage. Because I feel like Plateau de Solaison overrates climbing performances a little bit in a similar fashion that every Swiss climb does. But I think as the factor here, I think Remco should also go to the Giro next year, is the outcome that I'm trying to get towards.
Depends on the TT case.
It always depends on the TT kilometers with Remco, but I think it's time to win the Giro for Remco Evenepoel.
That's what he said. He said, this tour gives me the confidence that my dream to win all 3 Grand Tours is not unrealistic. And so I think you're right. That starts with the Giro next year.
But it is the type of rider where if he does the Giro, I want him to do the Giro Tour double.
Yeah.
And whether that's...
Why not do Vingegaard doing Giro Tour double? I think it proves again that it's totally doable, like after Pogacar did it. Vingegaard crashing out has nothing to do with Giro Tour double.
No, he was looking fine.
So if Pogacar's going to do the Tour, why not do Giro, and then you feel good after it, do the Tour?
Yeah.
Giro might have a stack start list next year. Should Sykes do the Giro next year?
Ooh. Yeah, I think for Paul Sixaz it's different because he's French.
Yeah.
How well broadcast is a Giro d'Italia in France in the big age of 2026? How valuable is that for Decathlon and CMA CGM in terms of sponsorship? I think that's an added factor there that you can't compare to, like if Remco competed for the Giro, they'd still have Lipovic as well for the Tour.
But if they move to Swiss license and his contract and he moves to Monaco, or he can't move to Monaco, if he moves to Andorra, he still has to pay French tax rate on races in France. So if you do your Grand Tour bonus, then the Giro post-tax might be more. These are the things people don't think about.
Yeah, but that's also his salary will be that big that it won't matter that his bonuses will take extra percentages either.
You don't see big riders doing on big contracts still doing weird promotions. So, I agree. I
One thing clear.
I agree. At 20 years old, he's not going to think like that. But I'm just saying these weird things actually do crop up.
I want to get one thing clear. A lot of Belgian media was talking about a brand new Remco Evenepoel that we've never seen before. It's like the entirety of those people forgot that 2024 existed.
Yeah, well,
he literally podiumed the Tour de France at near exact the level we saw this year.
But that's what I was reading. Like Remco was quite emotional, and it's his right to be. He should be, or not emotional. He was like saying, all these people kept saying, I can't climb. It's like, who? And people have obviously said it, but I was like, how could anyone say Remco cannot climb after 24? He literally podiumed the Tour de France.
You literally had 2 riders on your can climb list for the last 18 months.
Yeah.
So you're not helping the problem, Patrick. to be honest, that can climb list was made in response to Remco not being a GC rider. Cool, no, right?
The reason I started that bit is because the Belgian media kept saying Remco can't climb. And I was like, well, if Remco can't climb, then I guess no one can climb. Like if you win a Grand Tour then and you can't climb, then fuck it, who can climb? I guess we're going to say it's just Pogačar and Vingegaard then, if that's going to be the yardstick.
And I think you'll agree with this, but the Vuelta victory is not as much important to me, even if it is in the previous era of climbing performances. It's the Tour de France 2024 that was at such a high level. Like, Remco's Plateau de Bay is still top 8 climbing performance.
Of who?
Of last X amount of years?
Nah.
Where would you put it then?
Poggi and Jonas do 660 for fun.
Oh.
It's top 20, I'd say.
Top 20.
Yeah.
16th.
I don't know exactly. I haven't. The point is, he climbed really, really well on Plateau de Bay and Isola as well. So, yeah, Remco. I think Bora will be happy. I mean, they probably wanted 2nd and 5th maybe, and that would have been really nice. Only team outside of UAE with 2 in the top 5. Remember, Visma got no one in the top 10. So, Bora want to be best team in the world. UAE want to be best team in the world. Visma want to be best team in the world. You got to have guys in the top 5 in the Tour de France if you want to say that. And I think Bora will be pretty happy, especially with the road stage win.
And it's the closest they've gotten to winning the Tour de France in terms of positions, because twice 3rd place, now 2nd place. They're gradually moving up in that for a team that is aspiring to be the team of the world. Obviously, with Pogačar existing, that's very difficult. With UAE existing, that's very difficult. But they keep evolving in terms of results. And yes, Lipovic crashed out, but I think their 2nd place is exactly what they wanted. I think it's also what Remco needed mentally to realize that it is the right thing for him, GC stuff. Because podiuming 2 out of 3 Tour de France you ride, pretty fucking good. Yes?
Damn. That's pretty good.
I think that's something people don't realize, that he's only ridden 3 Tour de France, podium 2 of them. Of course, winning it will be very difficult. It needs a lot of shit to happen. It needs maybe a worse Tadej Pogačar at first. But I think the next thought process is Visma Lease Bike starts his Tour de France with a fantastic start, winning the team time trial. In doing so, Jonas in yellow. That's a lot of Danish people were celebrating on the rooftops of Barcelona, is how I imagine it. But it fell through the water pretty quickly. When we started climbing, he started losing time, especially on the Tourmalet stage where the not climbing part ruined him. And from that point onwards, it was clear before the race, in my opinion, that he wasn't going to win the Tour de France, but that really put the nail in the coffin that it's near impossible for him to beat Tadej Pogačar in this race unless something happens that can twist the tides, can twist the odds in this race. But him crashing out before the actual mountain start means we don't know his exact level of what we could have expected. We've seen his team, though. Jorgensen was disappointing in this race, in my personal opinion. The rest of the roster, Piganzoli, it's hard to judge because he wrote the Tour de France after the Giro and he was pretty prominent in the last
hard
week.
to judge. You say you're not blaming Piganzoli, but you also didn't get the Giro Piganzoli for understandable reasons.
That's the take I was trying to head towards. Sepp Kuss' climbing performance in the last week
was actually really
fine.
Good.
He was on his way to win a stage, so I can't. He was about to not save Visma's Tour de France because it needs more than a Kuss stage win to be saved. But it's the worst Tour de France of Visma Lease bike since pre-Visma or pre-Jumbo. I'm trying to think.
When did Kruiswijk?
Blanco was probably worse.
Kruiswijk podiumed in 2019.
I
think it's the worst
when Thomas
one.
and Bernal did.
In terms of GC, because Roglic 2018 was like 5th or something, 4th?
Yeah, somewhere.
So yeah, it's
Luke tells us that we have to mention Mike Teunissen's yellow jersey at the start of the 2019 Brussels Grand Départ.
Okay, Luke, we've mentioned it. Indeed, and there's also back then there was a secondary goals, and normally there's a Groenewegen or a Van Aert. So it was really around Vingegaard, and then indeed it was so disappointing to see him crash out before Solaison. Does he drop Pogacar? I mean, no. It looked unlikely, but he was definitely going to give it a red hot crack, and we were going to see a different Solaison and definitely a different third week. Vingegaard's not going to just like say, "Hey, UAE, can we pace for you? What would you like today, Mr. Pogacar?"
And I've seen quite a bit of people now bring up Wout van Aert as the man who fell out of the roster because of injuries before we started this Tour de France. I don't think Wout van Aert changes anything about the domestique and chance of Jonas Vingegaard in this race. I do think he adds that ability to maybe compete for a stage 21 stage or a stage 17 that we don't have in this roster as much. And Sepp Kuss was the man that was able to be competitive enough to be in that small bunch of riders that can win a Tour de France stage on this start list. There's not many. Wout van Aert would also have been within that bundle of riders that could have potentially won a breakaway stage that was not a mountain stage, of course. So I think they do miss him on the stage winning department in this race. On the other hand, not on the support department, but I feel like this team needs refreshment. And the biggest problem is not even the refreshment of the riders that are there. It's they don't have a Del Toro. Kuss is not Del Toro level. And UAE will always have that secondary GC rider because they could have had both Almeida and Del Toro at this race. And if that was the case, it would have been next level humiliation compared to competitors.
But, no, Almeida would have sat on Del Toro, would have caused a lot of problems. But say they had Del Toro 2.0, whatever. Yeah. Luke was of the bull in Dutch.
Let's say Visma and Quickstep merged and Remco was now a part of Visma together with Vingegaard, hypothetically.
Yeah.
Lipovic rode for Visma in a hypothetical scenario.
Yeah, if Lipovic, what difference would it make?
I think then it just maybe evens out Del Toro a bit, but...
Yeah, but what did Del Toro do? Seriously, I'm not... what did Del Toro do?
I agree. Tadej Pogacar worked more for Del Toro than the other way around. Yeah. Maybe Del Toro worked for 4 minutes in this race, but that's also because it's not necessary.
I know that.
Would it be more necessary if there was a Del Toro equivalent on the other side that wouldn't go for the white jersey, hypothetically, or the podium?
I think if you have Del Toro or Sykes, I think Tourmalet is different.
I think Puy-Marie is different.
What happened there?
Well, Del Toro dropped. Maybe they're both dropped, or hypothetical Del Toro and a real Del Toro.
The problem was, this is the real problem on Tourmalet, the problem was Vingegaard was also a minute ahead of the next guys. If he was 20 seconds at the top of Tourmalet ahead of Sykes, you just wait.
Yeah, but it's also like...
What is a guy... They're a minute behind him on Tourmalet and then Pog's another 30 seconds ahead.
It's also, if you look at Lamarckstein, the fact that Jonas is just pacing himself for 4 kilometers on that climb shows that you don't have that last rider to do that necessary pull.
Exactly.
Jonas has to do himself. That's the point I'm trying to make. I don't think it changes the winner of the Tour de France. It does make Visma as a team have the equivalent of UAE as a team in this race.
Yeah, and UAE were just like on stage 6, for example, they just did what they wanted. And that's like, well, I mean, where was the break? Did the break even make the base of the Tourmalet?
I actually don't remember.
I mean, the break, like as in 2023, the break made the Tourmalet easily.
I think they did. I think they just about made it, but was it O'Connor?
O'Connor, yeah, the break never went, and then it was just O'Connor. There was no break.
Yes.
There literally wasn't a breakaway.
Now, I think lastly, I've said it multiple transfer seasons now, maybe the last 2 years especially. Based on their transfers, you'll know more than I do, but I'm doing this from an external viewpoint. I don't see the money to change this team to the level that it needs to be to give Jonas that fighting chance. Add to that Jonas' level is also by standard lower than Tadej Pogacar. So with this Tadej Pogacar and this financially backed UAE Team Emirates, Visma Lease Bike has no chance of winning the Tour de France.
That's the thing. If Vingegaard was climbing better than Pogacar,
well, yeah,
then I think the team would be good enough if you have a non-Giro Piganzoli, Kuss. But the fundamental problem is that Pogacar was way stronger.
Yep.
And I agree with you on definitely on like when Pogacar was isolated on the Galibier, he was isolated when Grosjean was done. You need a mega strong team to actually take advantage of that. And that's what, in the case of 2022, they had like Prime Kuss, Prime Van Aert, and yeah. But we'll see. I think you're right about refreshing.
It's just that
Luke says Prime Kreisweg.
Prime Kreisweg, yeah. Let's go with
that.
He
was pacing Galibier and Pogacar got scared and attacked.
Was Kelderman also not there?
Prime Roglic. You have Prime, and that's your point is Visma 2022 had Prime Roglic, Prime Vingegaard, and that was what was needed to put Pogacar under pressure.
That's difficult to compare because you and I both know that Visma Lease Bike Jumbo Visma 2022 and 2023, UAE was not UAE was not the better team. UAE is now the better team, like clearly.
Yeah, they're number one ranked in the world for like 5 years in a row. They're going to win another 85 races this year.
And Pogacar pre-2024 is not Pogacar post-2024. His level is significantly higher.
Yes.
So, yeah, you're up against the best team in the world, with the best rider in the world, with a worst rider and a worse team, and less money. I don't know how you're going to solve that. I'm not trying to talk to you specifically. It makes it sound like I'm speaking to you.
You just got to keep trying. I mean, you got 2 options. It's a good discussion because it's going to be the same. It already happened this Tour de France. People are going to say next year when Visma do the same, and I agree with it because it's also how I see the world. And I don't think the second best GC rider should just say before the Tour de France, Poggy's too good. That's how it is.
Of course.
No, but people will say, how dare Visma? How dare Visma say they're going to try to win the Tour de France? And be like, how dare... But, sorry, but...
For me, there's like the difference between like a Jonas Vingegaard coming out and saying, I'm going to give it my all, I'm going to try, it's cycling, everything's possible, that kind of vibe. Or I would even enjoy Jonas coming out, even if he's notably worse, to come out and say, I'm going to...
Pogacar's lucky I
put this kid where he belongs or something.
Yeah, he's lucky that roundabout was tight.
that kind of take, I'd love that as a drama frog.
Yeah, for the pod to be...
For me, it's different when I don't know, it's probably the same thing in reality, but like I saw this quote by Richard Plugge during the race where he said, we've got a plan. But like, mainstream cycling fans and sponsors would love that, and that's the reality. That's what they need to hear. Purists, as you called them at the start of the podcast, are like, that's fucking bullshit.
Oh, but there was a plan.
The gap was 4 minutes 30.
No, obviously the plan was not to be on 4:30, but there was still a plan to actually... Yeah. The plan was not to... No offense.
To crash out?
No, to be like Red Bull and say, hey, how can we make your life easier?
Yeah.
For the next week?
Of course.
The plan was to be aggressive, to take the time back. And
Makes sense.
yeah, I think you're right. It's like, can Visma do click their fingers and be the favourites for the Tour by next year? Probably not, unless Poggy's...
Something would need to happen to Pogacar for that to be the case.
On the other hand, like, I think it would be a very sad thing if the second best GC rider maybe ever is just like, I'm not going to try and beat Pogacar.
Yeah. If he goes to the Giro Vuelta to duck, I wouldn't like that either. I want to see the best against the best at the Tour de France, because we're having this discussion, but it's still cycling. What happened to Jonas can happen to a Tade. We don't hope that to happen to any GC rider.
Or Poggy gets the bug Wellens had one day. But I think your point, and it's correct, is that the supporting cast of Visma have to be at least as good as UAE's.
Yeah. And I don't see how they can fix that Del Toro thing financially.
Well, he won't be at the Tour.
Well, Almeida will be there then. We didn't see what he was capable of last year. Don't worry. Almeida's climbing level was pretty good last year.
Almeida's actually a better climber than Del Toro.
I'd have to look at the numbers specifically.
Del Toro is just much better at everything else.
Del Toro has a larger ceiling, in my opinion, though.
Yeah, of course, because he can... Yeah, Del Toro is a better overall rider. He's like a Poggy-style rider.
Yeah.
But pure climbing level, Almeida's arguably better.
Yep, I get that.
What was I going to say? But no, you'll take your point. Like the UAE team really kicked everyone's ass in the first, say, 14 days, 12 days. Points classification. How impressive was this victory of Pedersen? I would say very impressive, given that he was not competitive in the bunch sprints, which I also don't blame him for. We said before the race that he's missing a lead out, and I'd argue that an Edward Turns, whilst not being able to get in any of those breakaways, I think Edward Turns would have added an aggregate 70 points, 100 points to Pedersen through better sprint placements. But regardless, I would say Pedersen did it the hard way. Could not have done it a harder way, including on stage 20, but that was really impressive. And up stage 20, when he mathematically sealed it, getting in the break, very, very impressive. He wins with the biggest points haul ever, but I will say it's pointsflation. Pointsflation, so you can't compare apples with apples. But he whacks Philipsen in the end by 100 and no less than that, 85 points. So it was not a close margin in the end.
I could be completely wrong, but I swear when the super sprints got introduced to the Tour de France, it was 20 points instead of 25. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah,
but
I feel like it was 20 points at the IS.
I feel like there's been pointsflation in that sense as well. The way I would describe Mess Pedersen in this Tour de France is perseverance, because the odds were stacked against him, in my opinion, before this Tour de France. So I expected Jasper Philipsen to run away with the green jersey. Jasper just sprinted backwards, and Mathieu van der Poel's leadouts were not as perfect as people described. So the combination of that led to Philipsen getting worse positions than he could have. If Alpesen's leadout was better, Philipsen might not have won those sprints, but he might have gotten third instead of fourth, for example. So those tiny margins, they count at the end of the day. It's only 80 points in total. Add to that, I also think Mathieu van der Poel could have done more for... This is crazy, because Mathieu van der Poel did a lot for the team in this race, but could have done more in intermediate sprints to take points away from competitors of Philipsen, because Mathieu is pretty good at sprinting himself, and in doing so, that helps Philipsen as well. Mathieu van der Poel's beaten Pedersen in a sprint sometime in his career. It's like not impossible for that to occur in an intermediate sprint. Some of them were uphill
drags. He could easily beat Pedersen.
50-50 is my... Unlike some of the sprints.
No. Because Pedersen was leading them out.
Yeah, okay. I see that. And I think the take I want to try and get to is Mess Pedersen is only in the position of winning this green jersey because he's different than the average rider that would go for the green jersey. And I'm not saying that he climbs better. Yes, he climbs better. That's an obvious one. He does Peter Sagan-style events into a breakaway, stuff like that. It's more that even if he's in a losing position where 99% of the other sprinters going for the green jersey would completely give up and be like, okay, no points for today, we'll try tomorrow. That stage, I think it was 17, is the perfect example of Pedersen literally cracking halfway the break formation, still managing his way, brute forcing himself into a position where he can go for the green jersey points and even go for the final stage win, potentially. Like, brute forcing is, I think, the word I want to try and use.
Yeah, he never gave up.
And that is something that like, I think you and I have the same opinion. Little Trek and Pedersen didn't have the tactically best Tour de France of the race, that's for sure. But on a personal level, I never want Pedersen to change. Partially because we probably wouldn't see the crazy aura farming shenanigans that he does. And I'm not sure his results would be better every time. Because, for example, every now and then in breakaways, I think his impulsiveness helps him in some breakaway situations to get ahead of the anticipations of other people. Does that make sense?
In break formation, I think he's much better at it than people give him credit for, that he actually does. And he at least makes it hard on others to control him by being so, like, impulsive. And, you know, what hurt him on stage 17, jumping for the IS, well, he never gave up on stage 20. He got dropped on Croix de Fer. He was dropped.
Yep.
Came back, attacked, and got to the break, took the IS. And that's why he deserves that green jersey, and he's a valid winner for it. Philipsen needed to win one of the earlier sprints and come second in Bordeaux, and then he's in the game. But he didn't, and that's why Alpecin kind of they took the position that if Philipsen, it's his fault he didn't take green because he didn't win one of or two of those earlier sprints. But I agree with you. I don't think getting dropped off at 250 meters to go with Merlier and Coy on your wheel is a perfect lead out. Sorry,
yeah, I agree with you there, and I think they slightly different play. They can win this green jersey, so they didn't ride a perfect Grand Tour either. But to be honest, in the first 2 weeks, it looked like a disaster. Like, yes, that stage 9 victory was there. It's in week 3 or the end of week 2 that Jasper became somewhat competitive again for that green jersey, especially with the stage 17 victory. It didn't end up working because Pedersen was more versatile in the actual mountain stage in the last part of the third week. But I do think they end with a very respectable Tour de France, to the point that I think it's a good Tour de France, 3 stage wins.
3 stage wins, iconic stage win too.
Yes, I think, well, in our book, we've got the other iconic stage. We like stage 17 is the iconic stage win, but mainstream people will look at stage 21.
Commercially winning on Champs-Élysées with Van der Poel, I think they're going to be very, very happy with that, as they should be. So I think they had a good Tour de France. 3 stage wins. Yes, they wanted green, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
EF's Tour de France, it goes from bad to better than maybe they could have hoped for. I know I think they did hope Carapaz could contest the podium. I think Carapaz could have come top 5. But, I mean, Lenny came top 5, so you can't say that Carapaz couldn't come top 5, but he came in undercooked, and he backdoored top 10 GC whilst winning 2 stages, including the Queen stage and KOM. I think 2 stage wins us, EF. They'll be happy.
Yeah, I think EF's Tour de France is one of the best Tour de France's in terms of the teams that are present here for me.
Yeah. Yeah, for their expectations, what they would have hoped for, I think that's really good.
And with Unoexa was like, yeah, they had the stage win with Warenskold. They were competitive with Johannessen for stage wins, but couldn't pull it off. But I actually forgot about the yellow jersey of Tran. He's only one of 3 riders wearing a yellow jersey in this Tour de France.
Yeah.
Which is also pretty impressive.
They do it every Grand Tour. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that this happens.
It's also a skill to be just in the right position before the breakaway stage starts, to be the closest rider in GC the day that you are in that breakaway.
You've got to be 1 minute 15 to 2 minutes 20.
That fine line that he was fighting with Sean Quinn that day, that matters.
It matters that you're ahead of him. Because Sean Quinn, he wouldn't have dropped Quinn either. So, and you got to be disrespected. You got to be good enough, but you got to be disrespected enough that you're allowed in the break to take a big margin. And so, Tran takes it. I think that was good for them. They won a stage. Not too many. Merlier is good, best sprinter in the world. Thanks for coming.
Okay.
What did we learn from this Tour de France? Like, what I have to say, I enjoyed the breaks. I thought they were really high quality.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the parcours design and pacing of the tour?
Well, you know my opinion on stage 6. I like the parcours design of that stage in a bubble, but not as the 6th stage in a Grand Tour where Tadej Pogacar is present. It's not because I want Tadej Pogacar to lose his Tour de France. I I couldn't care less who wins the Tour de France. I've said this before. I don't really have a personal dog in the game of Jonas versus Tadej. I want to see a close battle until the finish line, and in doing so, feel fulfilled with an intense fight until dream scenario stage 20. Like Giro last year, stage 20, changing up the GC winner is insane, and I love that. It reminds me of some of the Vincenzo Nibali, maybe 2016 victory. Those are the ones that are close in my heart, and therefore I want the Grand Tour where an obvious favorite like Tadej Pogacar is present to be a bit closer together. Yes, in my heart, I know that Tadej Pogacar was going to win this Tour de France regardless of whether he's 2 or 5 minutes ahead after week 1 or week 2. But it adds a bit more tension of like, what if someone gets sick? What if something happens? It's never a certainty then. If the gap is 5 minutes by halfway week 2, then it's over.
Because you can lose 2 minutes on that Queen stage with like not being sick, but being a bit off. If you get dropped on the Galibier, you can lose 2 minutes. At 5, probably not. Like the Col de Lozeth crack is not happening again.
I've got a weird feeling about the sprints because normally I'd say, having the 5 sprints before stage 13 is bad for the presence of the sprint. This is the reason that Merlier left probably at the morning of Plateau de Solaison. He might have even tried to survive that stage more. I think he might have abandoned during the stage actually, but and not by choice. So my take is completely off. But you know what I mean, right? Sprinters are more likely to stay if you've got a sprint in week 3, which Montmartre is not that anymore. Champs-Élysées is not that obvious sprint anymore. But I feel like I enjoyed the fact that there were not a lot of sprints after stage 12, actually.
I agree. I would have been more than happy with another bunch sprint in the first 5 stages. I would have happily had 2 bunch sprints in the first 5 stages. I don't mind an early bunch sprint. Not that I like the TTT start, that should be here to stay. I think the TTT start, this was the calmest Tour de France I think we've ever covered in terms of peloton behavior, mass crashes. Like, there was not a mass pileup. I'm probably missing one, I know, and of course people crashed, but to me this was quite a safe Tour de France. The sprints were not as hectic with there was a crash in the curve sprint. Of course.
Not crazy though.
But yeah, I like the pacing of TTT and then a punchy stage, then stage 3. Stage 3 should have been a bunch sprint, not the Les Anglais finish.
That's exactly what I have on the right here. I was like, Les Anglais, that could have been a sprint. I agree with you. I'm fine with that. I think it's fine to have Tadej Pogacar win a stage in the first 3 though, because
but he can win stage 2.
To win that.
He could have won stage 2.
Now, I lastly would like to add that, what was I going to say again? About those pileups and so forth. There's this inherent thought process because I think the social medialization of every sport, any event that happens in a race is bigger than it was 20 years ago, even 16 years ago. For example, if I rewatch the Tour de France 2010, in a sprint, there were maybe 6 crashes in the last 6 kilometers. So many pileups. It's uncountable how many crashes there are in the first 5 stages of the Tour de France 2010. Based on my anecdotal evidence of rewatching all Tour de France's recently, there's not more crashes in modern day cycling that there were back in the day. I think it's the opposite. And there's this it's weird to say that now because on one end I kind of want to highlight the crashes because I want safety issues to be resolved, but I also want to burst the bubble that I don't think there's more crashes. It's just that the crashes that happen because of the speed of the peloton have bigger consequences to the riders.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't even know because I have never really, there's probably no database of crashes from 20 years ago, but
no.
Definitely when there's a big pileup, usually someone breaks something. There's more road furniture now, that's for sure. So I think when you hit unseen road furniture, you're going to hit it at a higher speed than when you make a handling error in a corner where you brake too much. You're already decelerating at that point.
And you said pileups, etc. I think I remember 2. One in that bend that you said, and also one on the right side of the road in a certain stage that I think a Tudor rider might have been involved. And that was because there was a sudden, what do you call this? In Belgium, we say in West Flemish a trottoir, a footpath.
Yeah.
Like a footpath came out of nowhere. And in doing so, that obstacle was not even signaled or like painted or padded, whatever. It was just there, and riders rode into it and crashed. So that's an example that one of the two pileups we are mentioning right here could have been fixed if ASO did a slightly better job in that stage in terms of safety issues.
And Molinar hay bale.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the hay bales. If they get hit by the riders, they get then dragged into their path, and then that's what happened with Roglic 2022 in the Roubaix stage, and that's the Molinar crash, I think, when he crashed out early, and there was a pile up. Anyway, did you enjoy this Tour de France, Benji? How would you rate it out of 10?
Like, let's be honest about it. I'm a cycling fan, so I'll enjoy every single Tour de France. I had low expectations. I had no expectations when it comes to the fight for first place going into the Tour de France. I was looking for a fight for third place. I got that for the first 2.5 weeks. I feel like maybe the last 3 days felt a bit anticlimactic in the fight between Sixas and Del Toro.
They never really attacked each other.
And I think it's because they couldn't.
No, because Pog would go, and then everyone's just riding threshold.
Yeah, so that's maybe something where I was sitting on my hunger, is a Flemish expression that I'm anglifying today. Breakaways were great. Sprints were great. Even if Medlier's the best sprinter, looking at some of these sprints that Merlier won, every single one basically, following Merlier in the last 3 kilometers, 0% that you can say, oh, he's obviously going to win. Like 2 of the 3 stages, you're like, he's in a lost position. Oh, he's moving up. It's so far, but it's Merlier, so he can still win. You're like going back and forth. It's satisfying to have a rider of that level in terms of sprinting and his positioning to be absolute dog shit 90% of the time. And that's weird because we're glorifying Jasper Stuyven as this ultimate lead-out guy at the Giro, and in one of these 3 sprints at least, crashed, I think, in the Olaf Kooi stage. But Merlier's lead-out was not great, despite Stuyven being a great lead-out. Does that make sense?
Stuyven did a great job on 1.5 stages, I think. But then the rest, there was no Burt, and there was no full lead. Quickstep brought a team that could control the breakaways rather than do a really, really good lead out. But yeah, Merlier, clearly the best sprinter. So I found the sprints exciting. The Varnschol one was crazy. That was cool. I would rate this Tour de France a 5 out of 10. I think I enjoyed the breaks. Sprints were high quality wins. But which stage will I remember as like a fantastic, exciting stage? Probably Alpe d'Huez, maybe. That was quite good.
Is it weird that I would say, like, a lot of people, we've always discussed like the witness greatness stuff. I'm not going to talk about that. It's more the opposite side today that I want to highlight. Like, the fact that Jonas crashed out did create an interesting scenario with UAE where Tadej Pogacar would start working for Del Toro. And is it odd to say that I think that dynamic of Tadej Pogacar working with Del Toro being different than just Tadej riding away and then the others fighting it out in a chasing group? I did find that more interesting because we've not seen that before.
Yeah, it made stage 20 more interesting than...
And Plateau de Solaison.
That was just weird.
Yeah, but it's weird is sometimes more interesting than seeing Tadej Pogacar take 2 minutes.
Exactly, because that was unexpected when they started to roll Remco, and then Remco wasn't dropping, and then Remco just surges past. You're like, what's going on here? So you're right, that was more intriguing than, if Poggy on Solaison was just like, all right, see you later, gents, and just won. You're like, okay, I've seen this movie 100 times now.
I think it's a 5.3.
Okay, you're going a little bit higher than me, but if we round down, we're at the same.
I think it's difficult to rate though because I've got no clue what I rated any other Grand Tour in the history of this podcast. I think
5 for us, 5 out of 10 is pretty low for a tour.
I think so too. That said,
it wasn't that exciting. Sorry, like
I really want to do like a rewatch in the off season of like every single Grand Tour in history and just rate them. That would be a great video.
Imagine we look back and we're like, we rated 2022 Tour de France like a 7.5. Like in hindsight,
mate. We were so frustrated with the way Jumbo was riding in that Tour de France.
No,
I might have rated it lowly because I was so frustrated at them.
2022.
2020, sorry.
No, 2020 I don't think was that good.
I think it was pretty solid.
2020 was
enjoyed that.
Visma like having the UAE dominance and just like not using it for 3 weeks.
And De La Cruz being the only rider in the team of Tadej Pogacar.
Yeah. I'm saying 2022, if we didn't rate that 10 out of 10, then I don't know, we need to revisit our rankings. I mean, what would the LRCP audience give? Whether it's Pogacar or Vingegaard or Remco winning doesn't matter. For like a Grenoble moment again.
Yeah, that was a great stage, wasn't it?
I needed Del Toro to go off script. I needed like UAE were also too happy. You know what I mean? Like when Jonas crashed out, it would have been great if like at least one day like Del Toro had to wait for Pog or something, you know? But it,
You mean too happy?
well, like there was also no for the podium. There really wasn't any drama. Remco was good at second, happy with second. Del Toro third, and then the strongest rider in history was going to defend third, getting third. It's like it's set.
Like if there was an upset hypothetically, whereon if Del Toro started crumbling in the middle of Galibier,
that's
what
I mean.
would that have resulted in terms of would Tadej Pogacar already wait or maybe closer to the top? Because if halfway to climb Del Toro starts dropping,
even that, what do? You said you were going to help him podium. But not that he should wait. He should never wait. But we also.
I think he does
that.
in the last 6 kilometers of that climb.
6Ks, no way.
I'm telling you, he does.
6Ks.
He had, how many minutes did he have in GC? 6.5? 7? 6.5.
He has 7 minutes.
I think he's confident enough to wait.
You can't do that. You can't do it. It's too risky.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I don't think it's risky at all. Tadej Pogacar is a lot better than the riders that would be ahead.
No, because you have to push the Lottery descent really full then. It's
he did that anyway!
No, I mean like at the top, the valley's too long, it's too risky. They wouldn't have allowed him to do it.
I'm telling you, he would have. Dedicated to the Mexican audience.
I agree. I wish that's what we were saying. I wish we got a bit of that, but it didn't happen. I also think Del Toro was bluffing on Glibier. I rewatched it.
I don't.
You reckon? He took a bid on when he was fucked.
Yeah, because he was thirsty as fuck.
Yeah, but I don't know. It might have been.
I
don't think he was that cooked.
I want to see in the comment section on YouTube and on Spotify from every single listener of this podcast. I'm going to count. If it's not every single one, we're not doing a Vuelta podcast, right, Patrick?
How do we calculate our listeners? Because like we know, like the official figures of the Tour de France will come out in a week, and it'll be like 23 billion separate people watch this Tour de France. And you're like, hold on, I'm pretty sure the population of the Earth's a little bit less than that, because that happens every year. Like that's not really adding up, I think, to
they just cumulatively account
like
every
a Twitter impression counts as like a viewer.
Like if we do that, we're fucking.
If we were able to sell ad inventory on the basis that a Twitter impression was with a CPM basis, we would have stopped the pod 3 years ago. So,
wow, I'm not sure about that. I enjoy doing this.
True, I'd do it for free. I can't say that.
No, we don't do it for free. Please sponsor, stay.
It's true. I enjoy it. I would do it for free. I would never stop it. Yeah, we'll get those figures out. All right, let us know what you thought about Tour de France. Last thoughts.
I forgot
Benji.
to finish the sentence. Drop your score in the comment section.
Yeah, 5 out of 10 for us. Luke, what number do you have?
Luke is going to take a decade to respond.
Luke, 6 out of 10.
He's bullish.
Yeah, 6 out of 10. Okay.
Is it because Dutch people won a few stages?
Did they?
Mathieu van der Poel is Belgian, so he doesn't count.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Visma TTT.
Wow. Wouldn't count that anymore. That team is Andorran now.
Yeah. Luke says because of GC mindset pre-race, i.e. if you had low expectations, then you weren't that disappointed when they weren't met. Yeah, I understand. I see that. All right, we're going to have the Tour de France Farm preview Wednesday afternoon, most likely. We have the Tour de France starting tomorrow, Tour of Denmark on Wednesday, San Sebastian Saturday. I think Remco might be there. And then the Vuelta starts in not that far a period of time. So lots of cycling coming up. Thanks for listening as always. Thanks to all of you. Big shout out to you for your support during the Tour de France. we enjoyed doing the pod every day, and we'll see you with the recaps coming up. Ciao, ciao.